Yo, hello. Okay, need this to stop. Hello, welcome to solo stream number 2 from this week. This is the Carousel Podcast. I am Isaac Simpson. I am founder of Will, the agency, a branding and content agency that does based stuff. And also Mama, the magazine, which is blowing up. I did a stream yesterday about all of the stuff going on with that. But people asked me to do some work or something on a discussion that was had on the timeline this week amid all the other crap that was going on between me and Spencer Pratt and Chris Rufo. And let me just say, I immediately regretted titling it this because I am not with Chris Rufo or Chris Pratt. And this is just me talking. Sorry, it's Chris Pratt, Spencer Pratt. And this is just me talking about what happened. So please, I did not mean to suggest otherwise, but whatever. I have to name the people that people are interested in. And I think that this is a good topic because it also implicates Curtis Yarvin, and it implicates a sort of mentality on the right that is worth discussing, that has been very confusing for people because I've been talking about this and people seem to not understand what I'm saying, and they misinterpret, I believe, what people like Curtis Yarvin also are saying about the state of the right and the state of conservatives and what that means and how that implicates Spencer Pratt. So let me share this tweet that sort of explains it all really quickly here. Okay. Need to make it bigger. Okay. So let's make me really tiny. Okay, here we go. So here we go. Basically, I tweeted this. I said, so Spencer was tweeting something. He tweeted a video during his campaign. He got a lot of attention for great propaganda work in the form of Twitter video. Some of that was done by his own team. He had a great video that was taken during Golden Hour that was just him sort of eviscerating Karen Bass and Nithya Raman for being hypocrites. And that was extremely effective. He also had all of Charlie Curran's great AI videos that were on his side. So there was a lot of really good material that were coming out. And so after the election was stolen from him, he is still making videos to try to articulate what happened and to try to sort of describe the communists, which is what he is framing his enemies as well as say what he can do, what all the rest of us can do in order to stop what happened. So he posted one of these videos, and the video is very tied up with what I would call the march through the institutions. And I'll explain what that means in a second, but I'll just read the tweet. So this was a response to Spencer. And look, I have no relationship with Spencer Pratt. I've met him once. I don't have any special relationship or connection to him in any way, but this was just something that I replied because I view myself as completely independent. I don't have any sort of, I'm not a relationships guy. I try to talk to the people, play to the audience of one, which is God, as we know. So I said this was just me blabbering in response to a video that was very good that he posted, which maybe I should actually play, which was him talking about communists. Actually, let me see if I should play that first, because that might be a better way to do this, because then he can say for himself what he means about communists. So just give me a second here. Yeah, here we go. Oh, wait, that's 9. This is long. This is a 9-minute long video. Is this the one that I responded to? Hold on. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So this is. Okay. Is this the one? Judicial ethics, it's a fraud. He did it so close to the election day. He knew the courts wouldn't be able. Okay. Yeah. Here's the video. So let me try to play this. Let me try to play this, because this will be actually interesting to play here, and that'll be some good content. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So we're just going to watch this in full. I think it's like 9 minutes long. So that's cool. You guys can watch this. It'll be a good thing to watch.
A potential fraud is disqualifying. In judicial ethics, the mere appearance of potential fraud is disqualifying. Same goes here. Whether or not there is widespread fraud occurring, there's certainly could be, and it doesn't matter how many times you scream, there's no widespread fraud. A lot of people believe there is, and there's no way to actually validate it. This isn't just about whether or not fraud is swinging the election. The appearance of fraud already is swinging the election. People rightly have zero faith in this janky, inefficient system. They feel like their vote isn't being counted. They feel like illegal ballots are being cast, and they're not wrong to worry about it. There's literally no safeguards in place to prevent that from happening, and way too many openings for it to occur on a massive scale. You all saw how he was neck and neck with Karen Masul on election night, nearly double digits ahead of Nithya, just as the polling predicted.
Rahman fighting tears on election night, trailing Spencer Pratt by roughly 40,000 votes and about 10 percentage points.
I dominated the in-person vote. I smashed Nithya on the mail-in ballots too. She was crying on election night. It was over. Then a few days later, suddenly Nithya started overperforming as they continued to accept ballots 7 days after the election.
But days of counting mail-in ballots have changed the map.
I'm so grateful.
Rahman has now erased a 40,000 vote deficit and moved ahead of Pratt by roughly 3,000 votes, a net swing of more than 43,000 votes.
43,000 votes, which just happens to be the exact number of homeless people on the streets in LA. They assured everyone that this is normal because for some reason that they can't explain, Democrats overwhelmingly vote by mail.
There's a historical phenomenon in national voting called the Red Mirage.
The Red Mirage.
What we were calling a Red Mirage.
The Red Mirage.
Yeah. This term was coined because about some swing states count votes, usually favoring Republicans early. Then it becomes an advantage for Democrats later in the evening and then into the next morning.
You expect to see the Republican with a lead, but it's not really a lead.
Democrats vote in higher numbers by a mail-in ballot. Historically, Democrats vote in higher numbers by mail-in ballots.
But not all Democrats, just the ones who are voting for the third place candidate, the one candidate who really needed the votes. Don't forget, there were 2 Democrats in the race, but for some reason, only the third place Democrat who needed the votes saw a disproportionate spike in votes several days after the election. Plus, multiple studies have shown that mail voting doesn't provide an advantage to either party. It's a myth. The media will say that claims of fraud here are without evidence. Keep in mind, an anomalous statistical spike like this is evidence of fraud. Ask any forensic accountant. It may not be necessarily proof of fraud, but it is certainly evidence of fraud. But forget the late ballots. Just because the vote swing coincidentally matched the specific Lhasa count of homeless people on the streets, just because NGOs that Nithya cuts checks to were hoarding ballots, just because hundreds of thousands of dead people and ex-residents who've left California were still on the voter rolls, doesn't mean anyone's taking those loose ballots and filling them out. First up, it's against the law. And we all know if it's against the law, it doesn't happen. Secondly, we have signature verification. Everyone has to sign their ballot, and a computer checks your signature. Well, except some voters can't sign, so they carved out a rule where you can just make a mark on the ballot, and a witness can sign on your behalf. It can be an X or a scribble or even a happy face, as long as a witness signs off on it. And don't forget, once they separate the ballot from the envelope, there's zero way to trace it back to the ballot to check if the sudden tranche of votes that swung predominantly to one candidate had come from a bunch of ballots with the happy faces in the signature box. The DSA instructs their ballot harvesters to go door to door and tell them to vote for Nithya Rahman and even help them fill in the bubble for their preferred socialist candidates. This is explicitly illegal. A ballot harvester can't tell you how to vote, and they certainly can't help you fill out the ballot. But laws don't matter if you have no mechanism in place to prevent the crime from occurring in the first place. There is this misnomer being parroted even by staunch critics of California's rigged voting system, saying there's nothing you can do because this is all legal in California. It's not legal. Even by California's own ridiculous laws, all this stuff is still illegal. They've simply removed all the mechanisms to catch the fraud and prevent it from happening. It's like a bank heist, but California has made a law that you can't lock the bank vault. You're not allowed to have security cameras, and you can't count the money inside the vault. Robbing the bank is still 100% illegal, but there's no way to stop it from happening. Now here's the smoky backroom dealing. 5 days before my election, Gavin Newsom signed a ridiculous law that literally banned federal and independent authorities from investigating vote fraud or overseeing elections to monitor for fraud during the counting process.
That's why I'm moving forward with new legislation that would make it a felony to seize ballots before the vote has been certified by state and county officials. We will be the wall. He cannot get it past.
That's like banning the bank from having security cameras. Now, the timing of this was deliberate. He knows this won't hold up in court, but he did it so close to the election day, he knew the courts wouldn't be able to overturn it in time for the election. It's truly like going up against the casino. The deck is so stacked against you, you never really stand a chance. You can play if you choose, but the house will never lose. So now, in California, you can loot $950 of merchandise. You can knowingly infect someone with HIV, but if you try to prevent vote fraud,
You will be prosecuted.
how can you secure the money if you can't lock the vault? How can you catch the robbers if you're not allowed to monitor the vault? And how can you even identify if the vault were even robbed in the first place if you can't even count the money? This is what California has done with elections. Unsolicited ballots going into open mailboxes and NGOs and parking lots. Bank vault is wide open. No signature required, no ID required, no way to ID the robbers. And the beauty of their rigged system is they can have all the pageantry of this public ballot counting center. Hey, come on down. It's open to the public. Anyone can come watch so you can see just how kosher our system is.
We are inside LA County's massive ballot processing center. When Assistant United States Attorney arrived on scene to observe the process and ask questions.
All the fraud that does occur happens long before the ballots even hit this building. People have been pushing me to demand a recount. Why? You could recount these anonymous ballots 100 times. You'll get the same exact result. I have no doubt that they are doing a flawless job of accurately counting every single ballot in here with robotic precision. The fraud isn't here. It's here on Skid Row, where homeless people are paid a couple bucks for their ballots.
They give you $2 to vote? Yeah, they give you scoop. Would they come down here and kind of tell you to vote?
Yes.
I told you to vote for?
Since I'm voting your way, gotta get a play. You know what I mean?
It's here where socialist street animals go door to door and violate the ballot harvesting laws. People bring up the old communist adage often attributed to Stalin saying, it's not who votes that counts, it's who counts the votes. No, this is the modern era fraud. They've gotten wise. The modern communist agrees with the old communists, but just the first part. It doesn't matter who votes. It doesn't matter if it's a drug zombie being paid for their ballot. It doesn't matter if it's a DSA socialist street animal filling out your ballot. It doesn't matter if it's a blue-haired intern at a Nithya Raman-funded NGO filling out the ballots. The bank vault is wide open. The cameras have been removed, and there's no way to count the money. Now, for those of you who wanted me to fight the election, for those of you who thought I was quitting or I was bought off to step aside and quietly disappear, I'll remind you, there's a smart way to handle these things and a dumb way. Evidence is not proof. I don't say things without proof. Now, anyone saying that there's no evidence of fraud is lying. There's tons of evidence, and I was the one who got it. All those videos you saw of homeless people admitting that they were paid for their vote, where do you think they came from? Immediately after the big spike of votes came in for Nithya, I sent my team down to Skid Row to collect evidence. We were warned by some very well-connected people that this was happening, so we acted on it immediately. But if you want to end this fraud, doing protests and bitching about stolen elections, anything, you need the fraudsters to start charging. For that to happen, you need proof. That's what investigators do. They turn evidence into proof with a robust investigation. You think it's a coincidence that 20 FBI agents suddenly descended on Skid Row to investigate vote fraud? Why do you think they were there? You don't get evidence by going to rallies or storming a ballot processing center. You get evidence by doing real work. And the first rule of criminal investigation is you do not talk about it. Here's the reality. It's too late for my campaign. A lot of people refuse to accept that, but I can. I told you all to get your ass out and vote. Tell your friends to vote. Vote enough to beat the chief. We didn't beat it, but that doesn't mean I quit. I don't know how to quit.
He never knew when to quit.
My goal isn't to try and salvage the campaign, just like my advocacy in the wake of the Palisades fire wasn't about my own home. It's too late for me. This is about you. This is about the next one. It's about exposing this corrupt rigged system and changing it for the next election. If I have to be the kamikaze pilot to finally get this fixed, so be it. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. The right way isn't easy, but it ends with commie animals in handcuffs. I will restore faith in our elections if it's the last thing I do. And to all you fraudsters out there, we've been watching you, and justice is coming.
So what we're seeing is a ballot box being opened, and then we have the war Teddy Roosevelt thing. Okay, so I think anybody watching that, it's inspiring. It's long. It's 10 minutes long. I think that it's like it's so good until the last like 2 minutes, And then it goes totally into the territory of like exactly where I think it shouldn't go. So let's talk about like why that is. So, okay. So I without getting too deep into it right away, let me just pull up the response that I gave to Spencer. So I gave this response to Spencer. I said, excuse me. I said, Spencer, it's good that you're getting Rufo pilled on the march through the institutions, which is very much the agenda of our enemies. But it's also time to get Yarvin pilled on the futility of calling them out. They are far... Okay, I'm going to start that over. Spencer, it's good that you're getting Rufo pilled on the march through the institutions, which is very much the agenda of our enemies. But it's also time to get Yarvin pilled on the futility of calling them out. They are far left shock troops, orcs, of the moderate global elite, and as such, they have basically total protection from the consequences, which is why a movie like How to Blow Up a Pipeline has Hollywood backing, and Bill Ayers has a fancy academic job, and Chesa Boudin can be DA. Ultimately, the issue actually isn't them. The issue is the regime that uses them, and disclosing that regime via traditional politics and rhetoric and media is likely impossible. And disclosing, I actually mean... getting rid of them and deposing that regime via traditional politics and rhetoric and media is likely impossible. You've proved that more than anyone. And then Spencer responds in a big gotcha, like I got you, like he's owning my ass. I can't understand you. I don't speak black pill. And his thing he completely ratios me. I have 200 likes. He has 6,000 likes. 250,000 views on his thing. It's like, oh, snap, bro. All up in my face. And then, of course, people like Chris Rufo use this opportunity so Rufo then screen caps Spencer Pratt toasting my ass and says, Spencer is right. This is Christopher Rufo. Calling people out and playing politics is good. Chesa Boudin was recalled by the people of San Francisco, who then elected a moderate mayor who was cleaning up the city. Yeah, okay. Not perfect, but Yarvinism is a theoretical doom loop, self-defeating. All right, so now we can finally get into what the hell all of this means, because nobody knows what anything is talking about. But, yeah, Adam Kinney says, I was wrecked. I was wrecked by Rufo and Pratt. They wrecked me. Look, I respect both these guys, and I don't want to fight with them. This is really not at all to bring any sort of fight to these people. I'm a big Spencer fan. I have been this entire time. So I am not here to suggest that they, that this is like they did something wrong or whatever. I understand this whole argument. And I will say that I am on the side of Curtis Yarvin now, for sure. I am totally a Yarvinite. I think he's been right about everything. And now I see it through his eyes and not through Rufo's eyes. So there was always this fight between Rufo and Yarvin, and I was never sure which side to go on. Rufo is what I would say, he's basically the new right-wing guy. He's the new right-wing chief HNIC who gets results, and he's an activist. He's an activist, right? He's kind of an activist, especially now that Charlie Kirk is gone. Rufo is kind of the guy who's the main right-wing activist, and I'm going to go and do these right-wing sort of like initiatives and get scalps and make inroads in destroying the liberal system and all that kind of stuff. So Rufo's book, which I've read, is all about the march through the institutions. What is the march through the institutions? So I mentioned this in the tweet. The march through the institutions is something that started in the 60s with Angela Davis, which was basically the far left in America saying, okay, we're never going to win the hearts and minds of America on a one-to-one basis. But what we can do is win by implanting ourselves in the institutions of higher learning. The colleges are a big part of this, and the institutions of media and journalism and all the sort of institutions. If we dedicate ourselves to infiltrating these institutions, over time, we can flip them and reverse them and make them work against the capitalist white guys that sort of run America. And as Rufo's thesis goes, and I think that he and Yarvin would agree on this, this is where they're still agreeing, that was completely successful. That was a entirely 100% successful project, and they did take over the institutions, as we can see, and they did make the America very far left because look around. When's the last time the right had any real cultural victory whatsoever? I mean, 5 minutes ago, gay marriage was voted against, and then now imagine one of your friends saying, "I'm against gay marriage." That would be unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And so this is the concept of the march, the leftward marching Chihulu, which is basically like things just continuously go left forever. They always win. The left always wins every cultural battle. They win every, and it's neoliberal. Is there any ever actual closing of the borders or anything that would economically help the American people? No, it's just the left wins everything all the time forever. And Rufo would say that comes from the march through the institutions. They couldn't win in the populace. They couldn't win democratically. So what they had to do is kind of go in at the top, which was through the institutions. And then slowly but surely, they hollowed those institutions out. They turned them inside out. And thus today, of all the far left crap that we get, trannies and all that stuff, it comes basically from a disconnected group of institutions, right? So I would say that probably Yarvin and Rufo are still kind of on the same page with regard to that. Where they start to split apart is how they see the contemporary right. So Rufo sees the contemporary right as a legitimate counterbalance. He sees it as a legitimate group that is fighting against the communist takeover or the far left power that is controlled via these institutions and controlled by a group of sort of nefarious far left type of people who more or less are the puppeteers of society. Rufo thinks, okay, well, look, if we vote hard, if we do politics hard, if we play the game and we have our podcasts and we, show up at the city council meeting and we vote and we run as candidates and we do all this stuff that we need to do, that the right can retake America, that we can bring America back maybe to where it was in a more right-leaning place where we're more conservative and we don't have all this woke bullshit. He tries to take people out, right? So he's most famous for dislodging Claudine Gay, who was the black head of Harvard, and she was very woke. And he did a whole project where he dislodged Claudine Gay. That's a big scalp that he took. And we're supposed to say, oh, the wokeness is over, and that's because of Chris Rufo, basically, is what he wants. He wants everybody to say wokeness is over and it's because of Chris Rufo. And, maybe he's right. Maybe at some level he's right. Maybe we certainly have moved past the woke period, I will say. And we probably have done that in large part because of the efforts of Chris Rufo. Yarvin is on the other side of this. So what Yarvin would say is, in the extreme other direction, is this is not even a conversation. He would say it's not that the left marched through the institutions. He would say that the left has been in control of America since day one. He sees the American Revolution as a leftist revolution. He thinks that we have been a far, far left country since the very beginning, and that is what we always will be. This is we're basically a communist country, and pretending otherwise is a joke. And then, so what is the right? What is the right in America, according to Yarvin? It is a completely fake heckler's veto that exists solely for the purpose of pretending that there's any sort of counterweight balancing against the power of the left in America. So he would say somebody, a right-wing politician, a Ben Shapiro or a Chris Rufo or a Charlie Kirk or any of these people, what is their actual function? Their actual function is to cry out loud, but to ultimately lose. They are there to lose. And what the left wants is for them to cry out and then to lose over time. And yeah, do you got to throw them a couple wins here and there? Like, yeah, sure. You got to throw some wins in there just to sort of make it seem like they have a chance. But at the end of the day, look around you. A left-wing terrorist, right? You have a left-wing terrorist, somebody like Bill Ayers or the Weather Underground. They blow people up, kill people, and they have cushy jobs. Chesa Boudin is the son of two murderers who were left-wing murderers. And he was the DA of San Francisco, maybe the most powerful city in America. He was the DA of that. The son of left-wing terrorist murderers, right? So just imagine you had the son of right-wing terrorist murderers. That would be white supremacists. Say Timothy McVeigh's son ran for office in Oklahoma. You think that would get off the ground? Probably not. Or ran for office anywhere. Would that get off the ground? Definitely not. So what Yarvin would say is, fucking look around. Hello, like you're going to lose. The whole thing is a losing project. It's pointless. And what he would say is it's pointless to even try. You shouldn't even try a political solution because you're dead. It's done. It's over. The whole thing has been over forever. All we can do is apolitical, non-political sort of approaches, which is funny because actually, it's the most ironic is that he's saying the same thing as the march through the institutions people said in the 1960s. So it's actually very interesting, right? Because he's kind of like mirroring them in a way. But, he would say that. So there's this massive tension, and you've seen them fight about this on the timeline before. You've seen Rufo and Yarvin go at each other for this exact reason. Yarvin says the whole thing is Cape shit. He says Americans are being controlled with this, 1776 Cape shit, which is hilarious. And that we're just like, oh, we love America, when really we're just being used by communists. And look, I'm not going to go that far. I don't believe that. I don't think America was actually a communist thing or a lefty thing, but whatever. Who cares? What the fuck do I know? I don't know anything about politics. But then there's Rufo, who is like, no, have hope. And don't black pill. This is why he's coming in at me and saying, calling people out and playing politics is good. Chesa Boudin was recalled by the people. We can do it, guys. We can save America if we just vote hard enough, right? If we only vote hard enough, we can save the United States of America. And I will say, as a Trump supporter, as a big Trump supporter who's been on Team Trump since 2016, there's obviously some complicating things in there. I had a time as a leftist. I'm surrounded all by leftists, so whatever. But that's for another time. I have been a Trump supporter and voter since day one. Trump would seem to be a good example of Rufo being right? It's like, oh, we tried hard and we voted this guy in despite all odds. And he's doing some good stuff. He's doing some very good stuff, right? But what Yarvin would say is, okay, well, you know what the regime is really, really good at? They're good at letting the bad guy control the boat when we have to do bad stuff. So what Yarvin would say is, okay, yeah, look, the regime, they didn't like Trump at first. They hated him. Because he did seem like a genuine threat, but ultimately they let him in, or they had no choice but to let him in. But what is Trump really going to do? Trump is going to close the borders for a little while, not for long. He's going to clean up some this and that. And they can just say it had to be done, right? We couldn't just have the borders be open forever. they had to do these lefty unpopular things like closing the borders, and they got him to do it. And then later they can say, oh, Trump did that. That wasn't us. So actually, again, they're using the right endlessly as a puppet, and there's no chance of ever getting out. It's like, you're stuck. You're stuck in the thing. You're never getting out, is Yarvin's perspective. And that's very frustrating. It's a very frustrating perspective. I get it, because you're like, all right, well, what the fuck? We're just going to lose forever? Okay, there's no hope of anything. No matter what anybody does ever, it goes back to proving that the left is in control. And that's kind of like, I can't blame people for being disgusted by that, because it's like, oh my God. So, okay, so there's no point in waking up in the morning, right? It's like everything's predestined. I can't do anything. All these political things that I do are bullshit, and I'm just actually working for the opposite guy. And that's really frustrating, and it's a black pill, right? And that's why Spencer says to me when I say it's futile to call these people out over and over again, he's saying, I don't black pill. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Right. So, okay. So right now I get why I completely understand why people are disgusted by that perspective and why they disagree with Yarvin. And I, for a long time, did disagree with him. And I still do on a national level. I still think there is a point of playing politics on a national level, because at least maybe you can win, as Trump showed several times. And maybe America does just need a course correction. Even if it is a liberal experiment, maybe we do just need to kind of correct the courses, and that's what democracy does. I'm not a non-believer in democracy. Yarvin hates democracy, which is not something I agree with. So again, I'm not saying I agree with him on every level. In this case, though, I 100% agree with him, because I do think California is a Yarvinian nightmare. I don't think there is any chance for a real right-wing person to have any power in California. I think that's over. I think that they have, and that's what we saw with Spencer Pratt. I think Spencer Pratt proved that to be the case. And so I think the reason why I'm sort of on the side of Yarvin in this, and against Rufo, and sort of against some of the things that Pratt is saying, is because they did cheat. And not only did they cheat, they cheated brazenly and openly. And that told us something. That told us that there is no more political solution. There is not a political solution to the place that Dems find themselves, that right-wing people find themselves in California. That's over. I think we learned that. I think that what we learned is that they are going to get across whatever they want. They have a button. Also, by the way, concurrently to Pratt getting completely screwed over, and I've already talked about why this is. He lays it out in his things, but it's a little tepid, and then he puts it back on the people, which I so disagree with. He says, oh, if we'd voted harder, we would have done it, which is complete nonsense. If we had voted harder, they would have simply gotten more votes. There would have been no difference. They were going to win no matter what. They were going to win in any way they wanted, no matter what. They have an ability. They fraud. They cheat. Right? Trump has said they cheat since 2020. He has never equivocated. He says it every single time because he's an absolute fucking gangster. He's never said, oh, if you'd come out better in 2020, we would have won. He's never said that one time. He said they fucking cheated. And they fucking cheated in this Spencer election. It is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's so obvious that they cheated. It is, the numbers have no explanation. They have not offered an explanation at all for how this freak, astronomically impossible, 1 out of a billion statistical voting anomaly could happen, where you have 2 people and the mail-ins are one way, and then after election night they go to the 3rd unpopular candidate. No, I'm not even going to entertain it. It is so unbelievably stupid to believe that there's any explanation besides cheating. It's ridiculous. It's like, again, like I worked in homicide for a couple of years. If you find a guy, people don't get what a trial is. People don't understand what proof is. They watch too much CSI, so they think, oh, there's going to be DNA proof of everything that happens. Western society is not built on proof. It's built on testimony. That testimony and the circumstantial evidence and, oh, you got a little thing here and a little thing there, that leads to somebody being guilty. That's how homicide works. In real, actual homicide, you never have proof. If you have proof, you don't have a trial. It's over before the trial even happens. So in a real trial, you have this guy says this. You have, oh, the husband was no alibi and his gun was in the room and he was in town and he just found his wife cheating. And we have no video, we have no DNA, we have no fingerprints, but he's going to jail. That's what this is. You have a regime that runs the voting system. You have no way to check it. You have voting patterns that are very clearly going one way before the election occurs, and then you have them completely changing for the third candidate who just barely sneaks ahead of Spencer Pratt. Give me a fucking break here. There is no, it's again, you catch a husband in a room, or sorry, you catch a woman is dead. Her husband, she just told her husband she was cheating. There's a gun on the ground that belongs to the husband. That guy's going to jail. That's what this is. So there's no other explanation for it at all. So what this tells you is they do have a button. They have a button. And concurrently to this, by the way, we overwhelmingly passed in the same exact way. Oh, late mail-in ballots, something to tax the average LA resident more. Why would a bunch of LA voters vote to tax themselves? Why would we do that? We're in affordability world. Everything sucks here. Everything blah, blah, blah. Oh, but we overwhelmingly, magically, with mail-in ballots, decided to, on a referendum, tax ourselves more. Now, it's bullshit. It's a obvious bullshit. It's like a communist country, right? It's a communist country where they control the system of voting. And, oh, yeah, in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, that's not communist, obviously, but Saddam Hussein's opposition in Iraq got 20% of the vote. It's like, yeah, oh, yeah, Saddam Hussein's opposition was going to win. No, that's where we're at. We are in a closed system in California. It's over. There's no politics to be had. It's done. There's no point in voting. I mean, and this is where I really disagree with Spencer, because he says in the video, and this is where I really think he's going the wrong way. He says in the video, oh, there's no point in complaining about stolen elections if you don't have proof. There is no proof to be had. He already has proof. As he showed, he found, which was really great and really cool, he found proof of 2 Skid Row people being paid to vote as a certain way, right? So he got the proof. That is the proof. That's all the proof there's ever going to be. There's no, if you have a drug gang, right? How do you convict the guy at the top of the drug gang? Is the guy at the top of the drug gang, are they going down and selling coke and heroin to people? No. The whole point is you have a system in which the people at the bottom are getting paid by the people at the top, but there's plausible deniability because a homeless person from wherever the fuck who is being paid to vote a certain way or harvest votes a certain way, they say, oh, I got caught and I flipped on my boss, and their boss is some low-level coordinator from some NGO who there's no proof, but all we have is that low-level person saying, she told me to pay people. And then it's he said, she said, because that low-level coordinator can say, I never told her to pay people. That's what she says. I just told her to pick up ballots on their own. I just told her to get ballots. I didn't tell her to tell people how to vote. I didn't tell her to blah, blah, blah. It is a drug gang, and a drug gang operates in a certain way. You don't get the guy at the top of the drug gang unless there's some huge mistake in the system. You get there's tax fraud or whatever it is, and then you hang them up on one of these things, or there's a murder. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like the drug gangs have murders going on all the time, so that creates a little bit of a different crisis. In any case, the best we're going to get is some people who flip on low-level middle manager types, and the rest of the system will just say, oh, well, we didn't do that. There's no large scale fraud. This is one case. This is one bad apple. That's all they're ever going to get because they've set up a system in which you can't properly audit this stuff. There's no, the law allows people to put an X on their ballot. There's no possible way to prove the sort of large scale illegal operation that you would need to prove that this happened. It's not a possibility. So when Spencer is saying, let me find proof. Let's find proof. It's great that he's doing that. Let me just say, I'm not saying that it's bad that he is attempting to find proof. It's good that he's attempting to find it. It's that you're never going to get, I mean, we're talking about, first of all, years of time to develop something like this. And then you're also never going to get exactly what you need. You're never going to get that big ticket. Oh, it turns out that the head of the Dems is doing voter fraud. It's like, you're never going to get that. It's just not possible. So we are in a situation where either the feds need to come in and just completely end it. The Supreme Court needs to end it, which that's what I think will most likely happen. I think that probably there was a terrible decision led by, of course, Amy Coney Barrett about not allowing the days to pass after the day of the election, which is totally unconstitutional. It shouldn't be allowed. But in the common law, there's like a small exception. But I think eventually the Supreme Court will say this is all very unconstitutional. And it actually is, because in the Constitution, there's supposed to be 1 day of voting in November, and that's so obviously not. And it allows the situation where, whoops, the information comes in, the vote count comes in, and then boom, whoa, look at that. They had just enough votes to overcome it in the other direction every time. Amazing how that happens. So I think that it ultimately will get declared unconstitutional. And I do think that the Spencer case is going to be a big part of that. And I really do agree with that. But I will finish with this. I'll finish with just a final description. When I'm seeing that Spencer Pratt video, I'll tell you why what I'm seeing it through the Yarvin eyes. Let me just give what I'm seeing, and then I'll give you the background. Is a guy who is being led to playing the role of right-wing talker, which is exactly what the regime, the left-wing regime, wants. What they want more than anything else is an ineffectual talker, a heckler, to sit in a room, and Spencer is the perfect guy for this. And this is why I can tell they're wanting to turn him into this so bad. They're wanting to turn him into a right-wing radio host, right? Who yells and complains and points fingers at communists all day. And it's the commies, it's the commies, it's the commies. And the GOP, the right-wing donation apparatus, gets to go through that. A bunch of consultants get to get rich, pretending to try to fight the regime and, running these losing campaigns endlessly in California. And even if they do win, oh, by the way, there's no actual right-wing anything we can do. We can kind of, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? We can kind of say some right-wing stuff, but ultimately the progressive stuff is just going to win forever, right? That's what they want to turn him into. They want to turn him into a little Rush Limbaugh radio character, and he's the perfect guy for it. He's the perfect guy. Give him a show, give him a podcast, let him be on Fox News. Oh, we all don't like what Spencer says. Turn him into who I forget. Somebody can tell me the black guy in California that does this. He's a radio show host. That's what they want. That's what they want, a radio show host. That's what they want more than anything else. And two things. So I went to, here's why I believe this. I did a piece on, I've said this 100 times, so you guys probably have heard this before if you're actually listening this far in, but I did a article at AmFest 2 years ago when Charlie Kirk was still alive. And I interviewed Charlie Kirk and I asked him, and it was a very weird event because this is the right wing. This is like the right in America. And I was like, what is this thing? And what I realized is it was all about broadcasting. Everything was broadcasting. You know, every different one of these sort of conventions has a core substrate. It has a core sort of like interest group in the middle of it. If for Comic-Con, it's like these old comic book artists. That's how it started. For any of these cons people go to, there's, you know, for Complex Con, it's about shoes, like sort of sneaker geek culture. At AmFest, which is one of these cons, the core substrate is right-wing broadcasting. Everybody there, they want to be a broadcaster. They've got a little mini broadcast setup. They've got a big broadcast setup. Everybody there is trying their hand at broadcasting their complaints about the Dems. That's what everybody's doing at that place. And I asked Charlie Kirk, the most telling thing is I asked Charlie Kirk at that time, I said, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And I thought for sure he was going to say president, or, you know, I thought he was going to say, I want to be Ronald Reagan or Richard Nixon or one of these right-wing leaders. And he said, I want to be Rush Limbaugh. And I was like, that was so telling to me, because I looked around and I was like, oh, that's what this is. The right wing is just a giant broadcast. It's a million broadcasts of just complaints. And the trucker and all the people who listen to it, it's confirming their anger, right? It's saying, yeah, you are right to be mad at those damn Dems, right? You are right to be mad, and I'm mad, and you're mad, and we're all mad, and we're going against the left. But there's no, Rush Limbaugh had no actual power. Did anything ever actually happen? Mamdani right now, a mayor of a city, a local Dem, one of these DSA people, has more power than Rush Limbaugh ever had. Yeah, he has power to talk and, you know, sure, sway opinion to some degree, and opinion and talking and air, but it's never physical. It's very rarely physical. And that's why when you look around, all the police departments just do whatever the Dems want, because the Dems have actually gotten their hands on actual power, which is something, again, Rufo would agree with. The question is, what do you do about this? Do you make more podcasts? Do you talk more? Do you, give Spencer a show? You know, that's what they're going to do. What they want is to give Spencer a show, you know, and then he's got a show where he talks and, you know, all that stuff. And look, maybe on a national stage, I will say I'm not a Yarvinite. I do think that given what the Trump administration has achieved, and at first I thought they didn't do anything, but then after they got Bondi gone, they actually did start putting teeth in for real. And I think the right needs to learn how to have teeth, and et cetera, et cetera. So look, I'm not talking about the national stage, right? In California, we are in Yarvin world. They are undefeatable. There's no reason to try to tell people you should have voted more. There's no reason to tell people, and this is what the CA GOP is doing and the LA GOP is doing, oh, you should have donated more. You know, like, oh, if only the national party had given us more resources. They say that. If only, more people had come out. I told you all to come out and vote. I really hate when he says that, because it's not true. It doesn't matter. I mean, like, of course, obviously this is extreme. Surely there's probably not infinite amount of numbers they could have cheated with, but no, they were going to win no matter what in this circumstance. There was no way they were not going to get rid of Spencer. And yeah, maybe in some freak occurrence, he would have made it to the general and then they would have just done it again. But no, what we saw here is them using their button, right? That's what we saw. That's what we learned in this election. And that's why California is completely screwed. That's why we have one party. It's why the streets are disgusting, because there is no competition. They have cheated. They've cheated just like they did in 2020 against Trump. I think in 2024, the reason why Trump won is because, you know, people like Scott Pressler and Pennsylvania kind of played the ballot harvesting game back in a certain way where they were able to fight off the fraud, and it was just too risky for them to pull that. But if you look at those numbers in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, it's the same thing. It's like this ridiculous statistical aberration that only ever goes in one direction. It is cheating. It is fucking cheating. And trying to say to people, oh, you should have voted harder. I mean, again, it's like, I get it because it worked for Trump in 2024 because it was kind of like, all right, well, this is our last chance. And I said then, I would be full 100% Yarvin. Yarvin doesn't vote, that's what I would be now had Trump not won. But I do think there was enough democracy still left in the system nationally that Trump was able to pull it off. California, that is not the case. There is no democracy in California. It's over. We do not live in a democratic state here. And there is no amount of voting or fundraising or anything that in any sort of practical sense, like, yeah, sure, of course, if $80 billion dropped from the sky, would you be able to, of course, yeah, if 80 billion votes amazingly drive every single person in the whole state voted for it, it's like, yeah, of course. I'm talking about in any reasonable, realistic world, there is absolutely no possibility that Spencer Pratt would have won. None. Doesn't matter how many votes he got. Doesn't matter how many people came out. And it is toxic brained to blame that on others because you're giving people hope. You're perpetuating the lie of consent. You're saying there was another way that it could have gone. If we'd only tried harder, if we'd only voted harder, if I only podcasted harder, if I only called out the communists a little bit better than I did. Absolutely not. That campaign could not have been better. You had viral million view videos all over the place. You had fires that destroyed the city. You had homelessness that destroyed the city. There was it was 10 out of 10 conditions for a right-wing person to win in LA. 10 out of 10. You could not have ever practically wanted better conditions than that. And he did, basically at least come in second the night of. He did do that. She cried and he did come in second. And then whoopsie daisies, just like every other election in the past since COVID, what do you have? All the ballots just magically after we get the results in, they go the other way. It's like, no, dude, you're getting cheated on. It's like a husband who doesn't realize he's getting cheated on, and over he's like, maybe I'm not getting cheated on. Maybe she tripped, fell, and landed on his dick. Maybe magically only Nithya Raman voters came out, only in mail-in, only after the results came out. Maybe that's what happened. That's not what happened. It's not what happened. You can suggest maybe they can only cheat to a certain degree, and we need to play by the rules and beat their cheating by the blah, 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 blah. No, this was it. This was the end. This was the end of the democratic experiments in California. And I'll tell you, I will never vote again in California. And he's criticized, Spencer, not voting, that's not going to help. You have no chance, man. We have no chance. There is no right-wing person, as long as this regime is in charge, that will ever have party power in this state. The governor's not going to win. It's over. We do not have any power in this state politically in terms of voting. It is done. So, and you can pretend like that's not the case. The consultants, of course, the people who run the CAGOP and the LAGOP, they want to keep getting paid, right? They want to keep let's vote more. They want to keep the illusion going on, but it is an illusion. It's fake. So that when you have that as your realization, you have to then say, what do we do? What do we now do? How do we deal with this problem? And that's where we're at. And if you want to be a real person, if you want to be it's like fighting the Roman army or fighting the British army when there were the Americans. If you'd gone in and fought the British as the British, the way they fight, you would have lost, right? We have to fight as guerrillas because that's what we are. And voting is not going to do shit in the state of California. In America, yes. In, maybe some town in Northern California where you have right-wing people up there, fine. In LA and California as a whole, politics is over. Politics, as we know it, traditional politics is over. And what they are going to do, mark my word, they are going to try their hardest to make Spencer Pratt into a talking head. Not because that's putting him on the side, but because it's putting him in the game in the way that they need him. They want a bunch of people like me and a bunch of people like you to be like, oh, I hate the communists. And then tune in to the Spencer Pratt show. Tune into the Chris Rufo show and hear about how the communists are bad. And then go back and lose forever. Just let's lose. Just keep on losing. Keep on losing. Oh, we got the president of Harvard out. Great. Is Harvard right wing now? No, it's the same fucking thing it was before. It's the exact same fucking thing. So, this is why, again, I'm on the side of between Yarvin and Rufo. I'm definitely on the Yarvin side because it's just like, come on, man, look around. The solution is not politics. I mean, again, I'm still Team Trump. I'm still 100% Team Trump, and I still believe in the institution. I'm a big DeSantis guy. Because DeSantis is actually one dude who did prove that he squeaked by. So DeSantis in Florida, he got in by like 0.001% of the vote because they were doing the same bullshit cheating in Florida. But in Florida has some different stuff because they got the Cubans who are very anti-communist. So they had a little bit more of a chance than we did here in California. And then now he cleaned up the voter rolls. He actually stopped the cheating, DeSantis, and now he wins by 20 points every time. So there's certainly hope in Florida. If I, had more money, I would move to Florida, like for sure, because I feel like that is a place where reality has come through. And DeSantis just got lucky. He got in at that last moment where he could still get the change in. But we are past the fucking time in California. It's over. We lost the game. The right lost the game in California. The game is over. It's done. So now what do you do? Well, what do you now do? That's the question. Knowing that the game is over, it's time for another game. That's what I'm trying to say. And I really worry when Spence, I think he's achieved amazing things. I don't think he is nefarious. I don't think he's being told what to do by anybody. I think he's a completely legitimate phenomenon and totally independent and very talented and all these great things. And this is nothing against him whatsoever. It's only that the pressure around him is going to be like, it's the voters' fault. It's the donors' fault. And it isn't. It is the fault of the cheater, right? Just like in a relationship. It is the fault of the cheater. We didn't make them do it. They did it. And so the strategy needs to change, is what I would say. Okay. End podcast. Peace.
Thank you.